it to trial. Take it to trial. Welcome in, grab a seat, hit the like and subscribe. Cause Sweet Peas on the mic with that spicy little vibe. Got the courtroom streaming in the chat, going wild. We're debating heavy topics, but still laughing like a child. From objections to confessions to the judge's side eye. If it's justice and it's messy, we gon' talk about why. Every day's a new case, every moment's a ride. And when Sweet Peas in the building, we be learning with pride. Minds on deck, keep the room running smooth. Film freak therapist, you know, keeping everyone in the groove. Right to with the facts, pretty brown girl with the sass. Moreldia and Fowler keep the peace in the chat. But Jason walks in and the ladies collapse. Chocolate. Take it to trial, where the truth gets loud and the laughs run wild. Sweet Peas got the spice, she's the queen of the aisle. Chat fam rolling deep, we've been here a while. Lights on, mics up, we gon' do this right. Take it to trial, every day, every night. Take it to trial. Morning shows are sharp, afternoon is on fire. And we catch every moment that the court might inspire. From witnesses whispering, the lawyers trying to hard. You know Sweet Pea breaks it down like a legal tarot card. Chats cracking jokes, dropping theories on the fly. We're serious when it counts, but we still testify. Minds hold it down when the trolls try to play. If you write a line, court adjourned for the day. But when Jason logs in with that deep hello sound, the ladies in the chat, man, they all fall down. Take it, 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 take it to trial, where the truth gets loud and the laughs run wild. Sweet Peas got the spice, she's the queen of the aisle. Chat fam rolling deep, we've been here a while. Lights on, mics up, we gon' do this right. Take it to trial, every day, every night. Take it to trial. When the sun goes down and the cases get deep, after dark gets spicy, no secrets to keep. Taboo topics, big laugh, slap, happy crew. Sweet Pea says behave, but we never really do. It's opinions, confessions, stories untold, but we handle it with heart like the chat made a goal. Hey! Take it to trial, from day to night and every wild mile. Sweet Peas kneeling strong with her trademark style, and the fam in the chat always makes it worthwhile. Turn it up, show some love, hit the like on sight. Take it to trial, yeah, we live tonight. Take it to trial, yeah, we live tonight. Take it to trial. Take it to trial.
Issues and regard, the very first part of today's proceeding is going to be you receiving the oath of the trial jury. So I'm going to ask you to please stand and raise your right hand. You shall well and truly try the issue formed upon this bill of indictment between the state of Georgia and Trinity Poague, who is charged with the offenses of malice murder, felony murder, aggravated battery, and cruelty to children in the first degree, and a true verdict give according to the evidence, so help you God. Please indicate that you will. Thank you. Now, the indictment is the way that the defendant is charged with committing the crimes that are alleged in the indictment, and those crimes being violations of the laws of Georgia. The charges in the indictment and the plea of not guilty are not evidence of guilt, and you may not conclude that the defendant is guilty based on the charges or the not guilty plea. The defendant is presumed to be innocent until she is proven guilty. The defendant begins the trial with a presumption of innocence in her favor, and this presumption stays with her until it is overcome by the state with evidence that convinces you beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of the crimes charged. And again, you will receive much greater detail as to that burden in the final instructions. My law in this case, I mean, my role in this case is to determine the law that applies to this case and to instruct you as to that law. These are merely preliminary instructions, and you'll be given instructions at the end that will address the burden of proof, will address the specific elements of each offense charged, that will address many rules of evidence and other matters that you'll get in detail. The object of this trial is to the discovery of truth. During the trial, I will admit evidence according to rules of evidence. Those rules are designed to aid in discovering the truth by making sure that you consider only the best and highest evidence. These lawyers are very experienced attorneys. They're good lawyers, and they're going to make objections. They're going to advocate for their positions and for their clients. During the course of those objections, there's going to be discussion between the court and the lawyers concerning those objections. We might even have to ask you to step out into the jury room while we address some of those matters. Please don't draw any inference from that, and any of the conversation between the court and the lawyers about those objections is not evidence. That's legal banter that is not evidence in this case. And I don't want you to hold it against either party if an objection is made or if it's inconvenient that you have to step outside. Now, the trial will proceed. I'll give you sort of an outline of what to expect in the trial. The first part of the trial is the attorneys are going to make opening statements. That is where the lawyers have the opportunity. They don't have to, but they have the opportunity to kind of preview the evidence that you're going to hear in this case. Once the opening statements are concluded, the parties, the state will have the opportunity to present its case in chief. That's done by presenting evidence, calling witnesses. I don't know what the evidence is in the case because I will have heard it for the first time just like you, but a lot of times there are documents, pictures, videos, I don't know. But any evidence that is presented or any witness that is presented, the defendant will have the opportunity to challenge that witness by cross-examination or making objections, that sort of thing. But the state is going to present its evidence. When the state closes its evidence, the defendant has the option to present evidence, but she has no burden of proof and is not required to present any evidence. But if she wishes to do so, that'll be done in the same fashion. Once all of the evidence is presented, the attorneys will have the opportunity to give closing arguments. And again, the state has the burden of proof, so the state has the right to open and conclude the argument phase. During the argument phase of the trial, the lawyers will try to persuade you. They're allowed to argue the law and argue inferences and try to persuade you to one side of the case or the other. Once all of that is completed and all the evidence is completed and all the arguments are completed, I will give you those legal detailed instructions. At that time, you'll be asked to return to the jury room. The evidence and the indictment and a verdict form will be brought to you, and you will select a foreperson and begin your deliberations. It is very important that you pay close attention to the trial. If at any time you cannot hear or see any evidence, or if you are suffering from any discomfort or that distracts you, just inform me or the bailiff, and we will do what is needed to make sure you can hear and see the evidence. And if you need a break, we'll take that break as needed. You should consider the evidence with an open mind, and you should not reach any final conclusions until the trial is over. Do not jump to conclusions before all of the evidence is presented. And I gave you detailed legal instructions yesterday concerning your discussion of the case, your investigation of the case. I'm not going to give quite as much detail today, but I will remind you that it would be very improper for you to talk about this case with anyone or to conduct any research about this case or the law or any other matter associated with this case on your own. In that regard, you were asked to leave telephones in your car or with the bailiff. Has everybody done that? Okay, great. And I'll remind you that there may be recordings going on during the trial, and I'll assure you that none of that is going to depict you, and it's going to be very unobtrusive, and you should pay no attention to it at all. Okay. Now, does anybody have notepads? Okay. You're certainly entitled to take notes, but I want to make a few observations about that. You only have to take notes. You don't have to take notes. You take notes if you want to. But if you do take notes, please do not let that distract you from paying full attention to the evidence and the witnesses. You may not share or discuss your notes with anyone until you start deliberating at the end of the case. Once you start deliberating, you can share the notes. But even then, notes are not evidence. They are only memory aids. They are not more important than your own impressions or memory of what the evidence may have been. While you could consider another juror's notes to refresh your memory, again, only in the deliberation stage, you should rely on your own memory of the proceedings. Don't be influenced by the notes of other jurors unless their notes help you in determining your own independent memory. And you have to leave your notes in the jury room other than when you are in the courtroom. And at the end of all this, they'll be destroyed. So you won't get a transcript of the testimony in this trial to take with you. So it's important that you listen and take notes only if that helps you in your memory. Okay? Any questions? All right. We're going to proceed then. Is the state ready to open?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. You may proceed.
Your Honor, could I ask that chair be removed to sort of in
Yes.
the way a little bit?
Blocks
Thank
your
you.
view there? Yes, sir.
Over the next few days, what you are going to hear in this courtroom is the story of the short life and horrible death of a little boy. A little boy who at the time he died was 18 months old. He was born June 25th, 2022 to his mother, Shayla Garnica, in Tallahassee, Florida. His father was Julian Williams, and Julian knew that Shayla was pregnant, but was expecting the baby to be born the following week. She called him the day after the baby was born and said, "He's here now. He's been born." So Julian Williams went to Tallahassee, and they celebrated the baby, and that talked about what to name him, and agreed to name him Jackson Drew Angelus, which is Shayla's her last name, like her I can't remember what the correct word is, but it's her last name was Angelus Garnica, and so the child was going to be Jackson Drew Angelus. Actually, she didn't do that. She did the birth certificate and she put Romeo Angeles on there. And as it turns out, actually, you'll hear Julian Williams didn't even realize that the child's name was Romeo, as opposed to Jackson Drew, which they had agreed on, until after he had passed away. But he went by JD. That's what everybody called him. That's what his father called him. That's what his aunt called him. That's what his mother called him. He went by the name, by the initials JD, and he was ultimately solely in the custody of Julian Williams. When the child was 3 or 4 months old, his mother was going to return to Mexico for something, and she contacted Julian and said, that she wanted to know if he had any problem with her taking the child to Mexico. And he said, yeah. He said, I'd rather not. He said, why don't you just leave him with me? And she said, okay. So he went to Tallahassee and he picked up JD and took him back to Colquitt, where he lived. And when he went back to Colquitt with the child, that essentially was the end of the mother's involvement with the child. She saw the child 2 or 3 times after that, like when Julian took the child to Tallahassee to go to a doctor's appointment, whatever, she saw the child then, but she didn't keep him anymore. He didn't stay with her anymore. He lived from that point forward until his death. He lived with Julian Williams. He lived with Julian Williams and Julian's sister, Ashanti Burr, who is a little younger than he is. She's a college student now. And they lived with their mother in Colquitt. Her mother became ill. She was diagnosed with cancer. She was receiving radiation treatment, and the child couldn't be in the home with her because she was receiving radiation treatment. And so she ended up moving to another house that they owned, and so it was Julian Williams and Ashanti, his sister, and the child living there. And Julian was the sole income. He was the sole wage earner, the sole support for the family, for his mother, for his sister, and for the child. And so he worked a lot. And when he was working, his sister was the person who took care of the child, sort of on a day-to-day basis. The mother ended up dying. I don't remember exactly when that was. Sometime in 2023, Julian's mother passed away, and so it was Julian and Ashanti and JD. Whatever the original origin was of the relationship, Julian Williams became involved in a relationship with Trinity Poague, who is the defendant in this case. And she lived in Donaldsonville, in South Georgia, down, further south. We're in South Georgia, further South Georgia. When you're in Donaldsonville, this is North Georgia, practically where we are. But she was from there. She was from Donaldsonville, and she and Julian Williams became involved in a relationship. And you're going to hear some things about the relationship, about as it progressed. And for now, I'm just going to sort of summarize it by saying that what I think you will hear is evidence that the relationship was very rocky, that it was sort of up and down, it was on again, off again. They were breaking up on Thursday and back together on Friday, and then she was going to break up with him on Saturday, and it hurt her feelings because he broke up with her before she could break up with him, and so on and so forth over the course of many, many, many months. Trinity she was a college student. She started attending Georgia Southwestern in August of 2023. And so Julian often on weekends when he was off work, he often would come up to Americus. He many times brought the child with him to Americus, and they stayed in her dorm, and she lived in the Oaks dormitory. She had a roommate, a young lady named Paris Permort, who you will hear from in this trial. And so Julian would bring the child up, and they would stay with her. They would stay with her there. Throughout all of this, one of the primary sources of friction that you will hear about, the primary sources of friction in this relationship, and what you will hear is this, that Trinity Poague resented this child. She resented this child because the child got more of Julian Williams. Jay goes by Jay. Most people call him Jay Williams. And so if I say Jay or Julian, I'm talking about the same person. I'm talking about the child's father. But the child, JD, got a lot more attention from Jay than perhaps than Ms. Poague did. In addition to that, the evidence will show that she resented the fact that she was sort of placed in a stepmother role, that wasn't the role she wanted to be in, that she wanted to have a family, she wanted to have children, she wanted to have a child or children with Jay Williams, but not that child. She wanted her own child with Jay Williams. And you will see and hear evidence in both in the form of text messages and people who knew Trinity Poague and who had conversations with her, and you'll hear from them about the things that she said, and you'll see some of the text messages that she said, and going all the way back to like August of 2023. She was expressing her anger about the child, her frustration about the child, that commented in a text message to her roommate that she really would just like to punch him, and it's like, well, I know that sounds terrible, because he's just a little boy, but still, I wish I could just punch him. And she makes those references and things like that continue throughout their relationship. So coming up to the week of January 8th, January 9th of 2024, Jay Williams is here. He comes to America because he's working. He works at he'll tell you, I can't remember the name of the place, but it's in Bainbridge, and they build dams and bridges and things like that. They construct them there and then take them apart and ship them out and put them back together and all that. He's got a good job, and he fully supports this family and has since even before the child was born. But he would come to America sometimes, and then he'd go to work from here, and then come back to Americas during the weeks. And so he was in Americas for a couple of days and stayed at the dorm with Ms. Poague. And then he got a room here at a hotel, and they were going to have sort of a celebratory night, I suppose. And there was some fighting going on. It was trying to make up, and you'll hear all of that evidence. But the bottom line is that he's here on and off throughout that week. And then Saturday, he leaves here on Friday and goes work, and he goes home, and so he's in Colquitt, and
if there are phones in the courtroom, they need to be cut off.
I don't know where mine is, so I'm sure it's not mine. So they're there that night on Friday, January 13th. He's there. I'm sorry, it's not Friday. Saturday, January 13th. He's in Colquitt, and she's up here, and she's somebody comes up with the idea of them meeting in Albany. Okay, so he's going to meet her in Albany. They're going to go to dinner and whatever. So he says, but I've got JD with me. Okay, so I'm going to have JD. And Trinity Poague says, that's fine. Bring JD. I want to see JD too. And so bring JD. And so they meet in Albany and go to a couple of places, go get some food, and go to Sephora, the makeup store, and some other things. And then they're leaving there, and he's going to come with her to Americas Saturday night, January 13th, 2024. And they haven't even gotten to Americas, okay? They hadn't even gotten to Americas before she begins texting her roommate, Paris Permort. And she says to Paris at 9:28 p.m. that night, she says to Paris something to the effect of, are you going to be Paris worked nights? She worked nights at Magnolia Manor. And so she wasn't at the dorm. And so Ms. Poague texted her and said, are you coming back in the morning? Somehow I got stuck with JD, okay, because JD was coming up here with his dad. And she says, he made me feel bad because it's late and JD's being fussy. So he asked if they could stay. Well, that's what she's telling the roommate. I think the evidence will be that that's not, in fact, what happened. Because they're in Albany, right? He can go back to Colquitt, which is 40 miles away, and she can come to Americus, which is 40 miles away. But she wants him to come to Americus, so he's coming to Americus, and she's complaining to the roommate because JD's going to be there, because JD's going to be in Americus with him. She texts Paris, her roommate. I say roommate, sweet mate. You'll see the breakup of the room. You go in the door and there's a sink and a bathroom and a little lobby area and then two rooms. Okay, so she texts Paris and she says, I can't do being around JD anymore. He hates me, and I hate him. It's what she's telling Paris, even while she's driving to Americus with the child in her car. She put the child in her car, and Jay was following them up here. So they get here, and Paris wants to see the child. She's seen him. She's met him several times, when he was up here, and she adored him. She thought that he was, the sweetest little thing in the world, and so she wanted to see the child. So she says, she's gonna come over there, and she's, she says, I want to come see my child, and Ms. Poague says, you want me to stop by your work, and Paris says, no, I'll come to the dorm in a little while. When I have a break, I'll come. And so she does. She goes over there a little after they get there. They get to the dorm that night, a little after 10, and then right after that, just a few minutes after that, Paris comes to the dorm, visits with the child for a few minutes, and then leaves and goes back to work. Later that night, Trinity Poague texted Paris and said, is it okay if I sleep in your room? She says, I just need a break. I need a mental break. JD isn't asleep, and Jay is knocked out all over the bed, and I didn't want to play the TV in there, etc. That's about 11:30, 11:45 or so on Saturday night, January 13th. She tells Paris, Paris says, why don't you wake him up and tell him to help get JD to sleep? And Trinity Poague says to Paris, she says, I did, and he just put him beside him and let him roll off the bed. That's what she tells Paris. I think that message was at, you will hear, 11:57 p.m. Now, the sleeping arrangements in that room, where there was an air mattress, and the air mattress was blown up, and it was at the end of the bed, foot of the bed, of Ms. Poague's bed, and Ms. Poague and the child were sleeping on the air mattress, and Jay was sleeping on her bed. And so when she talks a bit about the child, quote, rolled off the bed, she later clarifies in a subsequent message the next afternoon to Paris. She says, oh, whoa, back up. Paris says, what? And she goes, oh, it's fine. He's okay. He's okay. He's fine. And not only does she say is he's okay, he's fine, but she has her phone out and she takes some short videos of the child after the child has supposedly fallen off of the bed. And the child is sitting up and he's calm and he's quiet and looks like a normal, sleepy little kid, who's sort of playing with, moving his hands around, playing with Miss Poague, and looks for all the world just, like everything is perfectly okay. There's no bruises. There's no marks on him. There's no anything. There weren't any bruises on him when he got here, okay? Like on his face or on his body. There weren't any marks. Wasn't suffering from any kind of medical condition. Wasn't in need of medical care or anything else, okay, when he had gotten here with his daddy. But she says to Paris, she goes, he's fine, he's okay. And the next day she clarifies and she goes, well, Paris says, well, I thought you said he rolled off the bed. And she says, well, yeah, she says, but, well, first she says, I don't know. I was asleep. I don't know if he fell off the bed or didn't fall off the bed. That's what she tells Paris. A few hours after she told Paris he rolled off the bed. Then she tells Paris, when Paris asks about it again, says, well, did he fall off the bed last night or not? And she says, yeah. She says, but that was only off the air mattress, and the air mattress wasn't that far from the ground. And then, of course, you'll see there is an air mattress that's in the room. I mean, by the time the room is searched and photographed and so forth, the air mattress, before Jay Williams had left the room that Sunday morning. The air mattress was folded up, put in the closet, etc. So, in any event, to get back to that night, she had texted Paris and said he fell off the bed, etc. But the child's up. She takes videos. He's fine. He's calm. He's playing. Doesn't have a mark on him. Doesn't appear to be in any distress whatsoever. He went to bed that night. Slept all night long that night. Okay? Slept until 9:30 or 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, the 14th. He woke up and, okay, I have a 4-year-old grandson and I might do this, okay? So I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with this, okay? But this is what the child was given to eat, okay? When he woke up on Sunday morning, it was Fritos, twisty Fritos, the swirly chips, Fritos chips, and Mountain Dew in his sippy cup. Okay, but that's what the child has, and the child is sitting in a chair that's one of those like saucer style chairs, like big round thing sits on a frame, and the child is in the chair, put in the chair, and is sitting there eating Fritos and drinking Mountain Dew and watching TV. And everything is fine. Jay Williams left. They were going to get lunch. He ordered pizza. Okay. He left the dorm, and you're going to see a video that just shows him. There's a few seconds of the video, but it's just video from the dorm, and you'll see you'll be able to make notes of the times that people came and went at the dorm. But he left, I think it was 11:55, 11:56 or something like that, Sunday morning, to go to Walmart to get some drinks and to go pick up a pizza for food. When he left, his son was in good health. He was gone 35 or 36 minutes. As he was coming back, he gets a call from Trinity Poague, who says something to the effect of, "I don't know what happened, but he's not breathing." And so Jay Williams pulls up to the dorm, and he goes into the dorm, and you'll see him. He's got a Walmart bag and a Pizza Hut box in his hands. And he goes through the door, and when he gets to the room, she's holding his baby, and he said the child appeared to be in great distress. He tossed the pizza on the bed. He dropped the Walmart bags on the floor. He picked the baby up and he took off. He rushed out the door with the baby, headed to Phoebe Sumter to the emergency room. The child was so sick at that point that the child was throwing up on him. May have started throwing up when he was in the dorm, in the room. I think what you hear is Jay Williams will testify. I mean, there's some evidence the child might have thrown up, like as they were going out the door. Jay Williams will testify that he doesn't really know when he started throwing up, but it was like in the car. It was when he, threw up on his clothes, etc. Gets to the emergency room. Not breathing. They take the child in. The child is in grave distress at this point. There's no pulse. He's not, no heartbeat, no blood pressure, no breathing, no anything. And they take the child and start performing CPR and I'll try. They were going to life flight him out to Dr. Busman, who will testify in this case. Dr. Busman testified he'd made arrangements with Eggleston Hospital in Atlanta, the Children's Hospital in Atlanta, for the child to go up there. They made arrangements. They were going to fly and helicopter the child out, life flight to Eggleston. As soon as they could get him stable, they never were able to get him stable enough to fly. A little after 4 o'clock, about 3 hours after he had gotten to the hospital, J.D. Angelus took his last breath. This child that when he came to Americas from Colquitt on Saturday, didn't have a mark on him, didn't have any injury, wasn't in any distress. When Jay Williams left to go to pick up pizza, the child was sitting up, eating, not in any distress, didn't have a mark on him. But by the time the child got to the emergency room, after spending 35 minutes in that room with Trinity Poague, this is what the child had. He had fresh bruising on his face. There was a fresh bruise, a visible, immediate, a sort of immediately visible bruise on the right side. Yeah, right side of his forehead. There was a bruise on the right side of his neck. There was a bruise on his cheek. There was a much bigger bruise on his other cheek. And you'll hear some testimony. You'll hear some testimony from the medical examiner and maybe others about what kind of a bruise this was. It's what they call a pattern bruise. Okay, it's something that when a doctor, when a medical examiner, somebody who's trained and experienced, looks at it, they say, I know what caused that bruise because it's like a bruise and there's a little break, in the skin, whatever was not bruised, and there's another bruise, and it's called a pattern bruise because it's something that is known as the kind of bruise you get from a hard slap to the face, or from this kind of a thing, this kind of a pinch to the face. So there's that bruise on the left side. He's bleeding from his brain. There are bruises, multiple bruises, 4, 5, or more fresh bruises on the top of this child's head. Okay, here and here and here and here, and in the temporal parietal region, which I think means right here. Okay, and up here at the top of his head. And that's not all. On the back of his head, this bone right here at the bottom of the bottom of the skull, okay, that sort of dish shape that kind of goes in, okay, sort of naturally protected by your shoulders and by the crown of your head. This bone here at the bottom of his skull, the occipital bone, is fractured. Not only is the occipital bone fractured, but he has a massive hemorrhage in that location at the back of his head. A hemorrhage that was causing a hematoma, collection of blood, that was so fresh and so immediate that the people at the emergency room are like, you can feel it. You can put your hands on it. You can feel the blood built up right here at the back of JD's head. That is an injury that I believe the evidence will show is referred to as catastrophic. It's an acute injury. It's not an injury that happened hours before or days before. It's not an injury that could have happened the night before. It's not an injury that could have happened realistically. It's not an injury that could have happened from a child falling off of a bed or falling out of a chair or anything else. It's an injury that essentially requires applied force to that particular part of the head. And it's an injury that could literally only have occurred within a few minutes' time before this child was presented at the emergency room. couldn't have happened last night. Couldn't have happened 4 hours ago, or 5 hours ago, or even 2 or 3 hours ago. It can't be, to the moment clear about when the injury occurred. But I think what you would hear across the board from the medical testimony in this case, you're going to hear not only from the medical examiner, but you're also going to hear from both of the treating physicians that treated this child at Phoebe Sumter Medical Center, at the ER, in the emergency room. That's Dr. Busman and Dr. Olek. And they're going to say that injury didn't happen before. That injury had to have happened in a very brief time, just a few moments before the child presented at the emergency room. And believe it or not, that's still not all. In addition to the multiple impacts, the multiple points of impact, the multiple injuries that was causing his brain to bleed here and here and here and here and here, in addition to that, J.D. Angeles had a massive laceration of his liver, okay, which is down here, this part of your back, where his liver is. And there's a massive laceration of the liver. And the laceration of the liver is to the right lobe of the liver. It's the lobe of the liver that basically is away from the front of the body. Okay, not it happens from falling forward or landing on the front part of your body. It's an injury that's off back here. It's causing him to bleed profusely in his abdomen. The evidence will be, the medical testimony that you'll hear is going to be pretty clear, though, that this is not the injury that killed the child. Okay, the injury that killed the child is the injury to his head. There's really not going to be any medical dispute about that. But there's nonetheless a massive laceration of the liver. It's not a chronic condition. It's not a condition that could have built up over time. It's not blood that would have collected over some long period of time. Okay, it's an injury that occurred acutely, that occurred sometime in the minutes or hours before the child was at the emergency room. Some of the injuries, like the bruises, for instance, what the testimony will be is that they're acute, they're fresh. But nobody can really age a bruise, okay? They can't look at a bruise and say that bruise is less than an hour old, okay? An hour-old bruise doesn't look much different than an 8-hour-old bruise, okay? The one injury, the single injury that can really be aged in this case, that the doctors can take a position, a firm position, and say this injury had to have occurred in this time frame, was the catastrophic injury to the fracture of the occipital bone, the hemorrhage, and the occipital bone was fractured so hard, okay, the extent of the fracture was significant enough that it caused the skull, this child's skull, to separate, okay, on this side of his head. Okay, like everybody's seeing pictures of skull, skeletons type of thing, and the skull is 4 or 5 different pieces. Okay, and those pieces you hear they're laced together. Okay, like the bone of the skull laces together. Okay, it's something called various. The one that's in question in this case is called the lambdoidal suture. Okay, and the suture is just where the pieces of the skull join together. Okay, and the impact to the back of this child's head was so severe that it caused the lambdoidal suture, which is up here on the scalp, caused it to separate. Okay, that's the injury that can be dated in time. But the others, the bruises, the injury to the liver, are all consistent with that same time frame, and the evidence will be, that they're all acute, they're all fresh, and you're going to see pictures of this child from just a few hours before where there aren't any of these injuries, okay? There aren't any of these injuries on him. There's no injuries to his face. There's no marks on his face. There's no knots on his head. There's no swelling of his abdomen. There's no vomiting. There's no illness that occurs or is associated with head trauma. The only time that that is present is at the conclusion of what was essentially the last 35 minutes of this child's life, when he was in the sole company of the defendant, Trinity Poague. You know, I'll tell you what evidence you don't have. You know, you're not going to hear. I don't. Nobody saw what she did. Okay, nobody saw what she did to inflict these injuries. Okay, there's not a video from inside of her dorm room, and you know, I think you hear you may hear, you know, some hypotheses. You know, could this have happened? Could that have happened? Could this have caused this injury? Could that have caused this injury? And so forth. But the bottom line is, nobody knows for sure what happened, except that J.D. Angelus was the victim of severe and sudden head trauma and abdominal trauma. Something that they will, I think that the phrase that you may hear from one or more of these doctors is something like inflicted trauma. Okay? Inflicted trauma as opposed to accidental trauma. There are some earmarks, there are some distinctions that the clinical presentation of a patient, there's some distinctions between patients who present with accidental injuries and patients who present with injuries that are the result of inflicted or applied trauma. You're going to hear the story of the last few days and the last few minutes of J.D. Angelus' short life. And you're going to hear about the details of his horrible death. And ultimately, when all the evidence is in and the case is closed, I'll come back and talk to you again. And what I will ask you for then is simply this: that as a jury, that you collectively say, we are going to hold accountable, we are going to hold responsible the person, the only person who could have inflicted these injuries on this 18-month-old baby. And the way you will show that accountability and make that finding of accountability and responsibility is by returning a verdict of guilty on the charges that the state has brought against this defendant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Are you all still comfortable? Does anybody need a brief recess? Okay. Mr. Gamble for the defendant.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I told you yesterday morning, my name is T. Gamble. It's my privilege today to represent Trinity Poague. You've heard what the state says the evidence is going to show in this case, and it will not be surprising to you, I don't think, that we disagree with at least some of what the state has to say as to what this evidence is going to show. Now, there are certain parts of the evidence we will all agree on. There's no question about that. But I'm going to tell you what we believe the evidence is really going to show you about this case. You're going to see that this is a case that the state has made that is filled with suspicion, but is completely empty of evidence. You're going to see that this case is not about a young 18-year-old girl who was dating a 23-year-old man and in some reason or another caused great harm to an 18-month-old child. Because you're going to see from the facts of this case that this case is about a victim. Not just one victim, but two victims. One victim is readily apparent. That's JD. This is an 18-month-old child. that had tragic injuries. There's no question about that. But the second victim sits at this table right here, right behind me. That victim is Trinity Poague, because she has been accused of a crime she did not commit, based upon speculation that is incorrect. Because you're going to see from the evidence that what occurred here is nothing to do with Trinity Poague's hands, nothing to do with any violence she would have ever have done toward the child. The evidence is going to show you that Trinity Poague was 18 years old at the time she was accused of this crime. She had graduated from high school the spring before that. She had graduated with honors. She had received a scholarship from the Jimmy Carter Scholarship Program. She agreed to come to Georgia Southwestern under that scholarship program to get a degree in nursing. She had just completed her first semester of school, making straight A's, when it began the second semester in January of 2024. Now, when she first entered Georgia Southwestern back in August of 2023, she had a relationship of boyfriend-girlfriend with Julian Williams, who you've already heard a little about. Julian Williams is 23 years old. She's 18. This relationship, as has already been described and we acknowledge, was volatile. It was an immature relationship, one in which they argued and fought and broke up and got back together and broke up and got back together. The breakups were usually on an hour or two, fussing over text messages or whatever. But you will see from that evidence and all that you will hear from the courtroom that Julian Williams was a controlling boyfriend. He wanted to know everything about what Trinity Poague was doing. He wanted to know the passwords for every bit of her social media, Snapchat, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it may be. He wanted complete access. That when he text messaged when he was away, he wanted a response immediately. He wanted to know that she was not going anywhere when she was in college where she would talk to other men. He did not want her to do anything. He was a controlling factor in their relationship. But at the same time, Trinity Poague at the time thought she was in love with Julian Williams. And so as time went on from August until January, when this event occurred, Julian Williams would come to see her at Georgia Southwestern College and spend the night quite often. He spent every weekend, virtually every weekend with her. And most days he spent at least a couple of times during the weekday with her. And almost all of those times when he did that, he was alone. Now, Trinity knew that he had a child. The child was JD that you've already heard about. When she first started dating him, that was in June of 2023. The child was approximately a year old. She did not meet JD immediately. She met JD later. But when she did meet JD, Julian was fine and dandy with her taking the child off by herself and doing whatever she wanted to do as far as shopping or things of that nature, because he knew that Trinity had experience with young children. Because Trinity, from the time that she was 11 years old until she was 18, had babysat for numerous people in Donaldsonville. Numerous times would take care of their children. And oftentimes the children she took care of were of the age of JD, under a year to a 2-year-old child. And so she was real secure in doing so. And you're going to see that most of the time, though, the child was not with JD, was not with Mr. Williams, who's known as Jay, because he would leave the child with his sister. As you heard already, he and his sister were living together. And in reality, the sister was caretaker of this child. Mr. Williams didn't take the child with him unless he had to. You're here on the weekend he had the child here on January was because the sister all of a sudden couldn't keep the child. When he came on the weekdays, he didn't bring the child with him. When he came on the weekends, for the most part, he didn't take the child with him. And when he did bring the child, he would give the child to Trinity to take care of. I believe you'll hear testimony that Trinity was the one that bathed the child, clothed the child, got the child ready for bed. If you see any photographs or any videos that are introduced of the couple, you'll see that Trinity is normally holding the child. She carried him. She took care of him. It's an indication Mr. Williams expected someone else to take care of the child. Now, the child had an unusual circumstance, and that was born to a mother that has now given the child up to Mr. Williams. Excuse me. Mr. Williams is not recognized as the legal father of the child. He's not legitimated the child or done anything to have a court declare that he actually is the father, but we're not really arguing about whether or not he's the biological father. But when the child was born, the lady was married to someone else who's not in the picture as well. But the lady that gave him up just told her to come get him, has not seen the child since she gave him to Julian Williams. Now, Julian Williams has had the child for about a year or more. And during this time that he's had this child, not one single time you can see from the evidence has he taken the child to the doctor. Not one time. For your normal checkups, for your normal monthly and quarterly and all the things that you do for young children. None at all. And you're going to see, in addition to failing to do that, that on the weekend that is in question in this case has been talked about, in which he came to see Trinity. This was an unexpected visit with the child. It was an unexpected visit, but Trinity did not know the child was coming, did not mind that the child was coming, but was not prepared for the child to be there. As an example, would not have had food at the dorm for the child, that type thing. But that when Mr. Williams arrived, he was drinking. And he was drinking with the child, riding from Bainbridge to Americus. And that he met Trinity in Albany, Georgia. And when he met her, they were going to Chipotle to have something to eat. And they sat down to eat there, but they did not have some of the things they normally have. And Trinity asked, could they go somewhere else because they didn't have what she wanted. So before they left from Chipotle, they were going to go to McDonald's. Before they went, they took the car seat out of Mr. Williams' vehicle and put it in Trinity's vehicle. And they did that because they knew, or Trinity knew, that Mr. Williams was drinking. He didn't need to be driving with that child. So they go to the trouble to take the car seat out of one vehicle, put it in the other vehicle. Trinity and the child went to eat at McDonald's. Now, when they went to eat at McDonald's, this is Saturday, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, sometime in that range, the child did not eat when he was given his food. But he's a young child. It's not unheard of for a child not to eat. Trinity didn't think anything particularly about that. They then decided to go to Americus. And Trinity had already decided, yes, she had sent text about she preferred that she not see him that night, not just the child, but Mr. Williams. But she realized Mr. Williams was drinking. She couldn't just send him back home with the child because he would be driving with the child. So she agreed to come back to Americus that night. They came back to the dorm that night. And when they came to the dorm that night, they had planned on spending the night, and Mr. Williams went to sleep very early. I'll suggest to you that he passed out because he had been drinking. And that left Trinity with the child. Now, some of what was said earlier about facts are not exactly correct. Trinity did text her roommate and ask could she use her room, but not to sleep. If you read the text, it was actually to watch TV because that will be separate in a way, not to go to sleep. But she had the child and she was up with it, and Mr. Williams was asleep. And I'll talk to you a little bit about the rest of this situation as far as the facts of what happened from there forward in just a moment. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the investigation that has occurred in this case. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation, along with America's Police Department, you'll see from the evidence, are the two main investigatory agencies who are trying to determine what happened here. And in doing so, they had a right to interview people and try to find facts and all those things. And you will see that they will have no evidence concerning the location of where a supposed crime scene occurred, and they'll have no evidence about a crime occurring at all. In other words, you'll see no blood evidence, you'll see no DNA evidence, you'll see no spittle evidence, you'll see no throw-up evidence. You may hear about throwing up coming up somewhere, but you'll see no evidence of it. You'll see no blood splatter, you'll see nothing that will indicate that a violent action occurred in the dorm where Trinity Poague lives. Nothing. Zero. You will see lots of photographs. They took photographs, over 150 photographs of the dorm area. They took photographs of the garbage, all kinds of evidence. They'll have nothing. And more importantly, you'll see that the GBI and the American Police Department committed two severe violations of the normal protocol. One involved, they took in from the trash. They had video of people coming in and out, delivering trash to the dumpster. And coming from the dorm room of where Trinity lived, trash was taken out, so they took that trash, went out there into the green dumpster and pulled it out. And they went through it, and it was just normal stuff, like empty cola cans and that kind of thing. Had 3 diapers in there. 3 diapers were wrapped up. They unfolded those diapers. They took pictures of the folded up diaper first. Then they took pictures of the diapers after they were opened up. 2 of them were of no real note. I think they may have had urine or something. It's hard to tell. The 3rd one was full of fecal matter. In that fecal matter, from the naked eye, it appeared to have blood in it. And it appeared to have blood because that's the coloration of it and the way you're looking at it. And the importance of that was, and is, it was taken enough importance to have a picture taken of it and to be marked, the photograph numbers show which number it is. But after they took that, and the first time that we saw it as an offense, we filed a motion to ask that there be a test done on that fecal matter to see if there was blood in it. Because there was blood in the fecal matter, it would show that it had been quite some time between injury and that occurred. You can't have blood if it just happened, it wouldn't be blood in fecal matter. In this case, the diaper was not the one the child was wearing when it went to the hospital. It had a diaper on when it went to the hospital. So you know that this diaper came from previous time, sometime in the past time period. But GBI and American Police Department, when we asked to do that test, turned out they threw it away. Threw away the evidence. They do not have it. They will not be able to explain why they don't have it, other than they did not feel like it was important enough to keep. The second protocol violation, I'll just wait and you'll just listen. When you come to court, you will see they violated a very serious normal protocol for the way cases are handled. And you will see that as I question some of their witnesses. But you will see that this investigation also failed in many ways. They interviewed Ms. Poague, they interviewed Mr. Williams, they interviewed quite a few people. But most of the people they interviewed, almost all, were the folks that knew Ms. Poague. Almost all of them. Everyone in the dorm, every friend they could find out, anything they could, trying to find out what was going on here. But you'll see when it came time to interview Mr. Williams. Now remember, he's the caretaker of this child. When it comes time to interview his sister, Miss Ashanti Burke, they interviewed them, but no one else. They didn't interview anybody who knew him. They didn't interview about what was going on. They didn't interview anything about what might have happened. They didn't interview anyone on that side because there was a rush to judgment in this case. You'll see the GBI got in this case earlier, said that Trinity Poague was the last person that was with the child. Child was in distress, she must have done it. From that point on, there was no effort to do anything but try to prove that Trinity Poague was the person that did it. But they had problems, as I said, when they went to the dorm room and they scoured it trying to find evidence. They found nothing. That did not support their theory very much. So they then have said they think it had to be within a time frame, a very short time frame that this occurred. That's the only explanation. That way it would make it where it could be no one else. Now understand, Trinity Poague was only around the child this time from Saturday around 6 o'clock or so until Sunday at noon. And really she was around the child most of that time with Mr. Williams. If any injury or anything happened to this child any other time period, it absolutely could not be Trinity Poague. And that's important to note because there are some things that occurred here. When Mr. Williams was interviewed, and I believe when he testifies, he will have to admit that he told various stories about what he thought had happened to the child after he got to the hospital. You will see, I believe, from Dr. Busman's notes that the first thing he told them was that the child had fallen face down, face first, 5 minutes before he brought the child to the hospital. I don't know where he got that particular statement from, but that's what he told them. He later told police officers the same story, that the child had fallen. And he told Trinity Poague and one of the police officers at one time that the child had fallen on Friday. In addition to that, we know a few things about what may have happened with the child as well. We know that JD spent the night, as I told you in the room if they got back from going to eat. When they got back, Mr. Williams is out. He's out cold. And we know he's out cold because there was reports from other people in the dorm that sometime midnight forward, at least 2 people reported they heard the child crying loud enough that it woke them up. And we also know that Mr. Williams said, I don't know anything about that. I didn't, and finally admits he didn't wake up. And I would suggest to you that evidence shows there's a reason he didn't wake up, for what I told you a moment ago, because he had been drinking enough that he would not wake up. But Trinity Poague was awake during those time periods. And Trinity has, you have seen that what they've already talked about with the text message, that she acknowledged that the child fell off the bed that night. Now, she said the first time he fell off the bed, but I think he's okay. The second time when they asked, she said, well, it was really just the blow-up mattress. But I think you will see that when that statement was made was from the hospital, as they were waiting to find out what was going on. And by that time, there had already been allegations being thrown against her. And I believe that you will find that Mr. Williams had wanted to make sure that no one said anything about the child falling off the bed. The bed's important because this bed's not like normal beds, in the sense that your normal bed's not too high off the ground. This bed is 40 inches above the ground because you can store stuff below it. That means it's about this high. It's pretty high. You'll see from, I believe, investigation that the flooring in that dorm room is a concrete tile floor. Very hard surface is what I believe the investigation showed. So it's something if you fall on or hit will cause great damage and can cause harm. And we know that the child fell off of that bed at that time because of the statements they were already made and because we know from the dorm that the child was crying. Now, was that enough to cause these injuries? I know the state will say that is not the case, but there's a few things I believe that will be acknowledged or admitted by the medical people that will come testify today. One is any child under 3 and certainly under 2 is not physically developed yet. And in one place they're not physically developed is the skull. Their skull has not joined together and become a solid structure that protects. It is sort of apart. So any evidence, in fact, that the skull was somehow separated could very well be that the skull has not yet formed to be together. But because it's not totally together, a young child is much more susceptible to injury from a fall than would be an adult human being, and can get much more catastrophic injury from what would seem to be a rather unimportant fall can cause great harm to a child. In addition to that, the same holds true for internal injuries. A child's organs are much larger than your organs because they've already grown in size almost to the adult size, even though they're a small child. So they're very susceptible to a fall because it's a small area with a large organ that if it falls can cause injury. And I believe that's important to know that that could be part of what could have happened. We don't know why Mr. Williams said the child fell on Friday, but there's also evidence I believe can show that if you have one fall compounded by another fall, it can cause some injury that then gets magnified by the second fall. But if we go back to the night in question that this happened, on the fall from the bed, we know that that happened. The next morning, when everyone wakes up, it appears that by all testimonies that will come in, that the child appeared to be okay. They got up rather late that morning, except for one thing. The child, again, did not eat and did not drink. The child would not eat and would not drink the night before. Everyone will agree with that part. Did not eat its meal. Gets up the next morning at almost 12 by this time and still is not eating and not drinking. And we know that not from testimony so much. We do know there were some chips that were crushed up in Mountain Dew given to the child, but the medical examiner and the medical records will show the child had no food in its stomach at all, had no food or any substance in its mouth. The child was not eating for some reason. which of course could cause concerns, but only if you looking back to now seeing their problems. But when the child didn't eat, it was just sitting there not eating, and that's when they decided to go get pizza. The father went to get pizza. Now, when he went to get pizza, Miss Poague said she was going to go with him. She and the child would go along with him. But he said, no, you just stay here. And prior to them going to get pizza, she and Mr. Williams had taken a shower together. And this was right before he would then get out of the shower and leave. He got out of the shower before she did. He got out of the shower about 5 minutes before she did, because she remained in the shower and shaved her legs. And that took some time, as you might imagine. When she got out of the shower, Mr. Williams was holding the child, who was crying rather loudly. But that was not unheard of, because the child was fussy from time to time and had been fussy during this occasion by not eating. Trinity Poague did not think a lot about it at the time, but the child calmed down. Mr. Williams put him in his little seat, and he left to get the food. When he came back, the child was all of a sudden in distress. Trinity Poague would tell you Trinity Poague's testimony would be that she was cleaning up around the house and didn't see anything unusual until she looks and sees that the hit child is not able to hold his head up as it should. She called her boyfriend because she knew he was not far away, and it would be quicker to get the child to get medical attention to go straight ahead than to call some emergency. He went to the hospital. She followed behind at the hospital, and that's when they came to be interviewed. They were interviewed on many occasions by police officers. Mr. Williams gave conflicting stories on various things on several occasions, and he was interviewed some, but as I said, nothing was followed up. Now, when you look at the whole totality of this case, ladies and gentlemen, it's easy to just first blush and say, well, she was there last, she must be the person. But this case requires evidence. It requires proof. Trinity Poague should not be accused of this crime. I know that when you go back to the jury room, you will want to find justice, and I understand that, because you do have one victim, a young child. But in seeking justice in this case, do not let justice be found at the cross of innocent blood. Because Trinity Poague did not commit this violent act. And Trinity Poague is not guilty of the crime she's been accused of, and that is the proper verdict that you should render at the end of this trial. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Jim. All right, it is 10:25 according to that clock. I'm going to give you a 15-minute recess. I'm asking you to step into the jury room for 15 minutes. The next recess, I'll let some people go downstairs if they need to, but please be ready to come back at just at 10:45.
That I had admonished all of these witnesses, like you can't say things like that, etc. And I did that. I told them all that. But I guess the warnings that I should have given should have been more, because I just learned of something, encountered something that I have literally never encountered before, and didn't have any, didn't even have a clue, didn't even occur to me that I should say anything in advance about it. But Investigator Douglas went to the went back there to the jury room where not the jury room, the witness room where Johnson, Millage, and Chief Lewis were sitting in there, waiting to be called as witnesses. And one of them said something to him like, well, there was something stated, something that he believed to be a fact. And Stephen said, Investigator Douglas said, you know, how in the world do you know that? And he said, oh, well, we're sitting here watching it on the phone. No, watching the live stream of the trial.
What witnesses are doing that?
Millage, Lewis, and Johnson, the three officers from GSW. Okay. So, I mean, I simply, when, you know, I felt like I had to make the court aware of that. I mean, I mean, it would be I don't know that the rule of sequestration has actually technically been invoked at this point.
That's true, but
so I would invoke it at this time. But nonetheless, I mean, I understand that that is improper. They should, and if I had any idea that they might do that, I certainly would have told them not to. And anybody else that's up here waiting from here on out will be told, you know, not to do that. But anyway, I just felt like I had to bring it to the court's attention. I mean, I don't think it affects their ability to testify or whatever, but it would be a violation of the rule of sequestration had it been invoked, and you know, it could be addressed in that way. But in any event, their testimony is all for all practical purposes. I mean, their testimony is pretty perfunctory. I mean, they're all going to testify briefly and literally only about the preservation of the scene, not the contents of the scene.
okay.
And so, you know, that is, and Chief Lewis is going to testify about the videos that were pulled, which, you know, I've already advised he was going to testify about that. So anyway,
Well,
just bring
let me
attention.
ask you. Well, I'll let you comment on that, but I assume the parties wish to invoke the rule of sequestration. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your
Yes.
Honor.
Okay. Well, the rule of sequestration is now invoked. So I'm going to ask each of you to instruct your witnesses that is in effect, and give them the further instruction, because they may not realize that includes watching any broadcasting or TV or news coverage of these events. Is there anything you want to add to that, Mr. Gamble?
Well, no, Your Honor, we normally ask for sequestration right at this point, right time before we bring the jury out, and so that not before we, you know, do open statements. But I acknowledge that it was not enforced, so I don't know that I can file some kind of motion or ask for a mistrial or anything under those circumstances. But I am aware that that occurred, and I may ask those people about that when the time comes. I think I got a right to do that. I appreciate Mr. Lamb being honest about it.
Yeah, I do appreciate you bringing this up. So
I wouldn't want you to find out some other way.
okay. All right. Well, that rule is in effect, and all of your witnesses need to be instructed about that. All right, is the jury ready? All right, bring them in. All right, everybody can be seated. Now I'm going to, as you all come in and out, I think you've noticed that people stand. They do that for me too when I come in and out, but I at some point ask them to not, you know, that I want everybody to be comfortable, including myself, because when I walk in, I don't want everybody to come up and down. So I'm going to let everybody know that it's not necessary to stand as you come in and out of the jury, because frankly, it takes you a little while, and I don't want you to feel uncomfortable about that. But obviously, everybody respects you, okay? I'm not going to prohibit you from standing, but you do not have to stand when the jury comes in and out. Mr. Lamb, you can call your first witness.
The state calls Lieutenant Nate Millage. witness stand, and then when you get there, if you'll just pause for just a moment and look towards me, please. Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the evidence you will give in this case will be the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Have a seat, sir.
Pull that microphone towards you, sir. We want to test it out.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
Would you tell the jury your name, please?
Nathaniel Millage, lieutenant at Georgia Southwestern State University.
Okay. Lieutenant Nathaniel Millage, and can you spell Millage for the court reporter, please?
It's MILLEDGE.
And you were employed, you said, at Georgia Southwestern State University.
That's correct.
What department are you employed in there?
The police department.
And how long have you been with the GSW Police Department?
Total of about 27 years.
And on January 14, which was a Sunday, January 14, 2024, were you on duty?
Yes, I was.
And did you receive some information concerning an event which may have occurred on the GSW campus?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Just briefly, if you would tell the jury what information you received and from where.
Okay. Initially, I received a call, as I recall, from Lieutenant Allen from America's Police Department. I think he was at the emergency room. I think he may have been working security at that time.
Okay. Did you receive a call from Allen, or did you get notified by Central?
Did receive the call from Central, but I also spoke with Lieutenant Allen.
Okay, so both. You
Right.
received that. What is Central? What do you mean by Central?
The 911 center.
And then you also received a phone call from Lieutenant
Allen.
Tim Allen from
Right.
the America's Police
Right.
Department, right? Okay. And did you subsequently have some conversation with Chief Lewis about about information being received concerning a matter at the college?
Yes, sir, I did.
What was the nature of the call? Okay, I mean, without much detail, but I mean, just if you're going to just summarize the nature of the call that you got, or the word that you got about what had happened.
I received a call that there was a baby transported from Georgia Southwestern to the emergency room, and I think it was Lieutenant Allen who informed me that initially he was told that the baby had fallen, that the baby was injured. At the time, didn't know the extension of the baby's injuries.
Okay, so there was an injured baby at the hospital,
Right?
And somebody at the hospital had figured out, I suppose from talking to someone else, that the baby came from the GSW campus.
That's correct.
And jurisdictionally, what does that mean? That if the child, if something happened on the GSW campus as opposed to happening, on the street out here in front of the courthouse?
It's GSW's jurisdiction.
It's GSW's jurisdiction, right?
That's correct.
America's Police Department may assist, but you guys have sort of the primary jurisdiction over events or acts which occur on the campus. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And so once you learned that it was a injured child at the hospital, what did you do in terms of taking next steps?
At that point, myself and another officer was Lorenzo Johnson was on duty at the time. I went to the hospital to start the investigation, and I sent him to the room and told him to secure it and not let anyone go into the room.
Okay. So you went to the hospital where the baby was.
That's correct.
But you told Johnson to go to the room that you believe that, from what you had been told, that you believe where something might have occurred.
That's correct.
Okay. And so where was that? What location did you send Johnson to?
It was at Southwestern Oaks Dorm 2.
Oaks 2?
Right.
That's OAKS. Right?
OAKS.
Like
Southwestern Oaks.
Okay. Southwestern Oaks.
Right.
Okay. Southwestern Oaks in like the numeral 2?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And that's the name of the dormitory, or that is the name of the dormitory.
That's the
right?
name of the dormitory.
Okay. And did you provide him with any information about any, did you identify for him any particular room in the dormitory that he should take control of?
Once we confirmed what room it was, I did.
Okay. So you gave him a room number.
Right. That's correct.
Okay. After you got to the hospital and began conducting a preliminary investigation, I suppose, into what may have happened, did you do something else in connection with this investigation?
Once I got to the hospital, I did speak with the father of the baby, Mr. Williams, I think his name
Julian
was.
Williams. Does that sound right?
And Miss Poague.
Okay. But then did you do something else in terms of procuring assistance from another agency?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what was that you did?
I contacted after speaking with Chief Lewis and informing him of the suspected injuries of severity, and we decided that to call the GBI to get their assistance.
Suffice to say, you learned very quickly the child was severely injured.
Right, that's correct.
Whatever the cause of those injuries, you knew he was severely injured.
Right, well, the doctor at the time, Dr. Busman, came in, and I was witnessing him inform the baby's father and Miss Poague of the baby's condition.
Okay. And once you learned that, you spoke to the chief, and then y'all called in the GBI.
That's correct.
Okay. What would have been your instruction, if any, to Johnson? Is it Sergeant Johnson, Officer
Johnson?
Officer Johnson. What would have been your instruction to Officer Johnson at that time about maintaining the control and integrity of the scene, of the location that he'd been sent to?
Well, initially, prior to me leaving campus, I gave him those instructions because I didn't know the severity of it, and I told him to secure it and to not let anyone enter the room. My instructions were to treat it as if it was a crime scene.
Okay. So sometimes you don't know if a place is a crime scene, do you?
That's true.
And so you make whatever provisions you can make to preserve it, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Was that essentially your intention in sending Johnson there?
That was my intention.
Okay. No further questions this time.
All right, cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Officer Medley, T. Gamble, how you doing today?
Doing fine, sir.
Just got a few questions for you. First of all, you stated that Lieutenant Allen, you had a conversation with him early on, and that's what spurred you on to go to the hospital and that type thing, correct?
Yes, I did have a conversation with him.
And Lieutenant Allen indicated to you that Mr. Williams had told him that the child had fallen, correct?
They said that the baby fallen.
So you don't know if he said Williams or you don't know who said it, just they said it.
That's correct. So he was told that.
Now, when you got that information and then you went to the hospital realizing there was some injuries to the child, you had already at that time contacted one of your officers and told them to secure the room back where Trinity Poague lived?
I did that before I left campus.
Okay, so before you left campus. Now, when you got to the hospital, was Trinity Poague there?
Yes, she was.
And was Mr. Williams there?
Yes.
And of course, the child was there, correct?
Yes, he was.
And you had Officer Johnson back securing the scene per your orders, correct?
That's correct.
And as far as you know, he followed that order and kept that place secure where no one could go in it, correct?
That's correct.
And it would be fair to state that Miss Poague could not have gone back at any time and tampered with the room from that moment forward, correct?
That's correct.
And so there was no possibility of someone coming in removing evidence, correct?
There should not have been.
And there should not have been any possibility of someone coming in and cleaning up the room or anything of that nature, correct?
That's correct.
And the purpose of that securing was to make sure that the only people that could go into that room forward would be some kind of technicians with law enforcement to collect evidence and that type thing, correct?
That's correct.
And to your knowledge, in fact, there was eventually someone who came and did that, correct?
That's correct.
Now, you weren't part of that, were you?
I was not.
And I know you had this initial part of the investigation, but after that, you didn't do any follow-up interviews or anything like that with potential witnesses, did you?
I did not.
I mean, once you turn over to the GBI, is that you kind of step back and let them take over?
Yes, sir.
And other than that preliminary stuff, you would have no other hand in the investigation, correct?
Not directly.
How about indirectly? How would you have it there?
Well, I was interviewed by the GBI.
So they would get whatever information you got from that initial stuff.
Right.
But I mean, you wouldn't go out on your own and say, let me see if I can talk to some witnesses, let's say.
No.
That wasn't your job, was it?
No, it wasn't.
And the purpose of securing that room was to preserve that room so that evidence could be collected from it and make sure none of it was destroyed or tampered with in any way, correct?
That's correct.
That's all the questions I have.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, may this witness be excused?
He may be.
All right. Lieutenant, you're free to go or stay. Mr. Lamb, you can call your next witness.
State calls Officer Lorenzo Johnson.
Officer Johnson, if you can come up here to the witness stand.
Yeah. And if you'll just pause right there before you have a seat and look towards me, please. Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the evidence you give in this case should be the truth, so help you God? Yes. Okay, have a seat, sir. What is your name? What is your name?
Lorenzo Lar Johnson.
Lorenzo Lamar Johnson?
Lar, L-A-R.
L-A-R. Lorenzo Lar Johnson. Okay, and where are you presently employed?
Georgia Southwestern State University.
And what department are you employed in there?
As of right now, I'm in residential life. And
Residential life,
Yes.
okay. And how long have you been employed in residential life?
a little more than a year now.
Prior to that, did you have a position in a different department at GSW?
Yes,
And where was that?
public sector building department, brother.
Public safety department?
Yes,
And what was your position there?
police officer.
Police officer?
Mhm.
How long had you worked as a police officer at GSW? If you can remember.
I came in 2022, I believe.
So as of January of 2024, you would have been there for a couple of years.
Going on 2, I believe.
Do you recall the day of January 14, 2024?
Yes.
And was there an event that happened at GSW that day, or an event that apparently had happened at GSW that day that prompted you to be given some instructions and to take some action?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me how you first learned of the event that had happened?
I believe we received a call from Chief Lewis at some point. Lieutenant Mills did.
Do you recall if you might have received some instructions from Lieutenant Millage?
Yes.
Okay. What instruction did you receive from Lieutenant Millage?
I was told to report to Oaks 2 to secure the scene of the incident that happened on campus.
Okay. And Oaks 2 is a dormitory there, is that right?
Yes.
Were you given a particular room that you should secure?
Yes.
Did you go there after you got that call, that instruction?
Yes.
How long did it take you to get there if you got that instruction?
Less than 3 minutes. I would say less than 5 minutes.
What is involved in securing a scene, whether it turns out to be, whether it is or is not, or turns out to be or doesn't turn out to be a crime scene per se? If it is a scene of interest, what is involved in securing that?
Well, immediately I would go to that scene and make sure there's no one inside that particular area. And at that point, I took pictures just to make sure that we have that particular scene photographs. And after that, I immediately secured the room with our emergency tape.
Okay. So you went to the room that you were directed to go to. Do you remember what room number it was by chance?
R158, R159.
158 and 159 are really the same room, right? I mean, it's the same suite.
Yes.
They have the same door.
Yes.
From the hallway.
Yes.
And then once you go inside the room, what is it? Just if you could describe for the jury, just sort of the typical layout.
When you first enter the room, it's going to be a room to your left, a room to your right. Before you get to those rooms, you're going to have like a common area, like a sink and a restroom.
I'm going to show you a diagram, and I understand in advance that you didn't prepare this diagram. It was actually taken from the GSW website. But just take a look at States Exhibit 1 and tell me if you recognize what's shown in that diagram.
Yes.
What is shown in there?
You see a restroom, bathroom to your left. You see a sink, vanity.
What that overall? What is that? I mean, is it?
That's the apartment.
It's an apartment or suite,
apartment.
and
yes.
Is that in one of the dormitories or?
Yes.
Okay. The layout that's shown there, is that the same layout as the Oaks 2 dormitory?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, will tender States Exhibit 1?
No objection, Your Honor.
Submitted without objection.
And we'll get some more detail about that later. I'm just going to have him identify it because he actually is from GSW. So Well, I tell you what, let's just go ahead and let you tell the jury what the layout is of that room, of that dormitory. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'm going to display the diagram that he's holding in his hand or displaying in front of him. I'm going to display it up here so the jury can see it. That's okay.
Once you've admitted it into evidence, you can display it.
Thank you, Your Honor. And assuming that the TV is still on. Well, it's on that screen at least. Let me go up that far. Let's go back to about right there. Okay. So can you tell us like the entrance door to this suite or this apartment is where?
It's Oak 2 building.
Okay, but where's the entry from the hallway into there? Where's the entry door?
It's directly in the front. I look right here. If you look at that your way, it's right.
You're talking about right here?
Yes.
Okay, right. So you go in the front door, there's some sinks to the right, and then a bathroom to the left, right? Toilet and shower.
Yes.
Okay. And then two doors that open into two different areas, two different separated areas. Correct?
Yes.
All right. And is that the same layout as the room in question in this case?
Yes.
Fair enough. Okay, when you got to the dorm rather, what was going on at the dormitory?
When I got there, the room was empty. Both rooms was empty. One door was shut.
Okay, the door was closed and the room was empty.
The roommate door was closed, but that'll be the room on the right hand side.
Okay.
The other door, the left hand side, was open.
All right. So the hallway door was closed when you got
Yes.
there. But then when you went in, the door to the right was closed.
Yes.
And the door to the left was open.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Was there anyone in the apartment or in the suite?
No.
How many people were in the area, like in the dormitory in general?
It could have been maybe about 2 students, and one was a RL, I believe. This was on the hallway.
So there weren't many people there.
No.
It was a Sunday, right?
Yes.
Was school in session at that time?
No.
On January 14th.
In session, yes.
School's in session, but of course not.
It's
on
weekend.
Weekend, right?
Yes.
Okay. So there were only a couple of people in the area.
Yes.
You took some pictures, and then you said that you did what?
I secured the door.
How did you secure the door?
I taped it off.
And when you taped it off, what did you do next?
I stood at post outside the door.
Did you leave? Did you leave prior to the time that somebody else was there to take over the scene?
No.
While you were there, did anyone who would not have had authority to enter the room attempt to enter the room?
No.
You remained there until when?
I don't know the exact time. My shift ends at 6. I remember going back to the department close to that time frame.
Okay, so you were there till around the end of your shift?
Yes.
Okay. What happened that led you to leave? I mean, that caused you to leave?
The GBI came,
Okay.
and also the next shift came also.
Who?
The next shift.
Oh, the next shift came on.
Yes.
Okay. So the next shift came on, and then the GBI came on.
Yes,
But you maintained control of that scene until other officers arrived, either from the next shift or until the actual GBI agent arrived.
yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Morning, Officer Johnson.
Good morning.
Campbell, you doing okay?
Great.
I don't have a couple of questions, but just to make certain, from the time that you came and secured that room until you left, can you state with certainty that no one entered that room,
The GBI entered that room.
but other than law enforcement?
No.
You kept it secured from all times, correct?
Yes.
And you were there very quickly after being called initially. Within 5 minutes, you were at the scene to secure it, correct?
Yes.
And no one was there then, correct?
No.
Now, you said you took some photographs, right?
I did.
What happened to those photographs?
They should be in evidence.
You gave them to who?
I gave them, I took them on our work cell phone, right? So therefore, that phone was downloaded. They downloaded the pictures, and it was given to Miss Donna Tissue.
And who is she?
She's the department administrator.
So she would have been with the Georgia Southwestern Police Department in some capacity?
Yes.
That's all the questions I have.
Tissue. Donna Tissue, like, yeah, Tissue.
All right, any redirect?
Is Officer Johnson, or well, I guess Mr. Johnson, or
I'm still certified, so I'm fine with that.
okay. All right. What would be the purpose of giving the phone or letting the pictures that you took be downloaded by Ms. Tissue?
For the evidence. No, that phone was our work phone, so whatever picture we take, we usually give it to the assistant administrator to make sure that she get those pictures off to be downloaded.
Okay. Is it your job to then turn those pictures over to, in this case, to the GBI, which was the agency that took over the investigation?
No, it's not my job to do that.
Okay. So somebody else would have been responsible for turning those over to the GBI.
Yes.
Nothing.
Yeah. All right.
When you went in to take the photographs, I understand the reason behind it was to be able to show the condition of the room when you entered, to be able to say, if later you could look at it and see nothing had been disturbed, correct?
Exactly, because we were the first law enforcement on the scene, so that's what we're trying to do, that we identify when we first got there.
But you weren't really trying to take photographs for evidentiary purposes to try to prove a case later on down the road, were you?
I wasn't, but I knew I was taking those pictures for some kind of incident.
Now, if there had been some kind of evidentiary value in that room, say a pool of blood or something of that nature, you would have made sure you took a picture of that, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't see anything visually as you looked in the room that would cause you any alarm or believe anything of violence occurred in that room, did you?
No.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Any other redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, may this witness be excused?
He may be.
Yes, yeah.
All right, Officer Johnson, you can be excused. You can call your next witness, Mr. Wayne.
State calls Chief Michael Lewis.
Chief Lewis, if you can come up to the witness stand and then face the district attorney before you have a seat.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear the evidence you've given in this case will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Have a seat, sir. Could you tell the jury your name, please?
Michael Lewis,
And Mr. Lewis, where are you employed?
Georgia Southwestern State University's campus police.
What is your position there?
I am the chief of police there.
Okay. And how long have you been the chief of police?
5 years.
Have you been employed as a police officer in other capacities prior to that time?
Yes.
And how long have you been a police officer?
My 30th year.
Your 30th year?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
In January of 2014, specifically January 14th, 2024. I said 2014. 2024.
Yes, sir.
Not 2020, not 2014, 2024. On January 14th, 2024, did you become aware of an incident or an event that might have occurred on the GSW campus?
Yes, sir, I did.
How did you become aware of that?
I was given a phone call. Well, I received a phone call from Lieutenant Timothy Allen from the American Police Department.
And what was your understanding as to where Allen was when he was calling you?
At the Phoebe Sumter Hospital here in Americus, Georgia.
And what did he, just in general terms, okay, what did he advise you of that in terms of this incident or event?
Yes, that had been an incident that had occurred. That a baby had been brought to the hospital. That was, I think he advised that the baby was unresponsive and that the baby had come from the campus of Georgia Southwestern.
If something had happened to that child on the campus of Georgia Southwestern, technically, what department would have had jurisdiction over that investigation or that incident?
Yeah, Georgia Southwestern would have.
As opposed to like America's PD or the Sumter County Sheriff's Office.
That is correct, yes.
Speaking of which, let me just be sure that I cover this now. Where is Georgia Southwestern University?
It's GSW Drive, 800 GSW Drive here in Americus, Georgia.
Okay. And what county is that in?
Sumter.
And what state?
Georgia.
Okay. And the Oaks 2 dormitory at GSW, is that dormitory physically on the campus?
It is, yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. When you learned that there was a baby at the hospital that was unresponsive and the baby had been transported by someone from GSW, what steps did you take next at that time?
Right. Like I advised, I was actually off duty at the time. So I did advise Lieutenant Allen that I would reach out to Lieutenant Nathaniel Millage, who was actually on duty at the university at the time. And I did, in fact, do so.
Okay. So you called Millage, and did you give him any instructions or direction about what to do?
Right. So when I initially reached out to him, I reached out to him via my portable radio, which would kept Lieutenant Allen still on my cell phone at the time, and advised him of the incident. He advised me at the time that he was on the phone with Central 911, gathering further information about that incident.
So basically, he got the notification from two different places at the same time. From Central and from you.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So what did you instruct Millage to do?
Right. So of course, to go to the hospital and assess what he had and keep me updated.
Okay. Was that essentially to determine if there was a need for further investigation or whether it would in fact be under the jurisdiction of GSW?
Right, just to kind of figure out if the child actually came from GSW and kind of what was going on that led the child from GSW to the hospital.
Okay. Did you subsequently look at some video footage from the campus?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. And do you recall when you did that?
I did that on the day of the incident itself, on the 14th, I want to believe. That's Sunday.
And what was the purpose of you looking at video?
Right, just to gather some preliminary evidence, I guess, or to pass on to the GBI, who was going to be actually heading the case by that point.
What were you looking at video of?
Of Oaks 2 dormitory, where Miss Trinity Poague was to have been resided at the time.
Did you prepare a schematic or an outline of various times of things that? Well, did you look at video?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. As you looked at the video, did you prepare a schematic or an outline of the various timestamps of when certain things happened at the dormitory?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. What were those things that happened that you made a note of?
Right. Just again, it was trying to look at a digital footprint involving Miss Trinity Poague, Mr. Williams, and the baby Jackson. I think this is the baby's name. Just trying to create that digital footprint of them in the Oaks 2 dormitory.
Okay. So in other words, were you looking to see what time they got there, what time they left?
That's correct.
That sort of thing?
That is correct.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 2. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, sir, I do.
And what is that?
This is going to be the timeline that I prepared the day in questioning about the video footage in Oaks 2.
Now that's a photocopy
Yes.
of yours. I mean, that's not your original handwriting.
No,
It
is not.
Okay.
It's a copy.
Can you look at it and tell me if it's accurate? I mean, in other words, is it the document that you prepared? When I say is it accurate, I mean, is that the document you prepared?
Yes, sir. It does appear to be my handwriting. Yes, sir.
Tender States 2 at this time, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
And if I could have just a second, Your Honor, to speak with Mr. Campbell. All right, Chief Lewis, I'm going to show you a thumb drive, a USB drive that is marked as State's Exhibit 3. There's a little sticker on the other side that says GSW Oaks Dorm videos 113-14-2024. Have you seen this before?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay, and what was the occasion? How is it that came to be in your hands to see it?
Right. For what a DA brought it over to me yesterday, and I was able to view it again for the second time.
Okay. And Your Honor, for the sake of the record, what I will advise the court at this time is that is a USB drive that I actually prepared from the USB drive which was provided by GSW, and but it doesn't include as much as the original one did. This includes what is shown on that timeline, items 6 through 12 of the timeline, which covers the time frame from Saturday night, the 13th, at about 10 p.m. to Sunday afternoon. Did I say that correctly?
That is correct. 22:06 to be exact. 10:06 p.m.
10:06 is the time of the first video that's
That's
on there.
correct. Yes.
Okay. And so you reviewed that and made sure that I copied the videos that you had given us, or that you had given the GBI, correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
And are they all the ones that, not all of them, but the ones that I said are on there? Are they on there?
They are on there. Yes.
Okay. With Tender States 3 at this time, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor. I'm aware that some that originally were on there are not, but they were irrelevant things that didn't pertain to this case, so I have no objection.
Okay, admitted without objection. Or the video is admitted without objection.
Judge, I'm gonna give that back to Chief Lewis and display it to the jury this time, if that's okay. You hold on to that. Yeah, I need this. You hold on to that. And my computer will recognize the USB drive. Then I'm going to play it for the jury. There it is. Okay. So what is going to be the first entry on here? What's the first thing they're going to see?
Oh, the first thing that you're going to see on the at 10:06 p.m. should be Miss Poe, Mr. Williams, and Baby Jackson actually about to enter onto the hallway where Miss Trinity Poague actually resides at in Oaks 2.
Okay. So I'm going to put it up on the screen now. Okay. All right. So the time that is shown here, and I stopped it 1 second in, but the time that's shown here, or the date, is what?
January
What's the date?
13th. January the 13th should be what should be displayed.
Okay. And then the time stamp that's on there is what time?
Should be 10 p.m. which would be 22:06 is kind of how we did it. It was military time, but yes, 10:06 p.m.
10:06 and 19 seconds after, right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay, and I'm gonna at this time, Your Honor, I'm going to play this clip, which is very brief. Okay, now the two people that are shown in this clip, or three people, I'm sorry, do you actually know who they are?
At this time, yes, sir.
At
I
this
do.
time, I mean, do you
I
know
did,
who
yes.
they are?
I did. Yes.
Okay, who are they?
Miss Trinity Poe, Mr. Williams, and Baby Jackson.
Okay, and who's holding the baby?
Miss Trinity Poe.
All right. Okay, so 10:06, they come in to the dorm. All right. Then there is a second clip. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And what is the second clip show? It actually encompasses two pieces of video. Is that right?
Still should be January 13th. Should just be Mr. Williams coming off of the hallway alone.
Okay. That's what's designated as item 7 on the timeline, right?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. And then item 8 is what?
Mr. Williams returning onto the hallway.
Okay. All right. And at this time, Your Honor, we're going to play that section. Okay. So the time that he enters the hallway is 10 or comes out of that door is 10:29:28, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And then when it shows him going back in, the video skips forward, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And what time does it skip forward to?
10:30 p.m.
10:30 and what, 35 seconds?
That's correct. 35.
Right.
Yes.
And that is Mr. Williams again, correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
All right. The next video segment on this thumb drive shows what?
That should be on number 9. Would it be January the 14th on that Sunday?
Okay.
And it's going to show Mr. Williams leaving the hallway alone with what appears to be 2 trash bags in his hands.
Okay. And that, in what time is that going to?
11:55, 58 p.m.
All right.
Correction, a.m. I apologize, a.m.
Oh, wait a minute. There it is. Okay. We'll back it up to the start there. Okay. 10:29.
It should be on the 14th.
Oh, that's the
Should be
same one that we
14th.
were looking at. Hold on. Let me close that one. Okay. All right. And this shows Mr. Williams coming through that door at what time?
I got him at 11:55, 58 a.m.
Okay.
on that Sunday, January the 14th.
All right. And he's carrying some trash bags, correct?
Yes, sir.
Then did you watch the video to determine the next time that Mr. Williams was back on that floor or back on that hallway?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. And how long was it until he returned to that hallway?
Looks like about 32 minutes.
Okay. What time did he return to the hallway?
He came back at 12:30.10 a.m. Well, p.m. 10:30 p.m. 12:30 p.m. I apologize.
Right. And so, Your Honor, I'm playing that at this time, and that shows Mr. Williams coming at 12:30:10, correct?
12:30 is correct.
Okay.
Returning onto the hallway with what appears to be a pizza bag and other bags in his hand.
Okay. And so he goes through the door closes, okay? And then what time does he reappear in this video?
I got 12:30:27 seconds p.m. So that's about a month.
12:31:27.
That's correct. Yeah.
12:31:127. So approximately a minute and 17 seconds later.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'm gonna play that segment at this time, Judge. It's on the same track on this USB, but I'm gonna play that segment now. And can you tell what he's doing when he comes through that door?
Yes, sir. He's actually has his child on his arms,
Okay.
which we believe to be baby Jackson.
Right. And he goes out that door at 12:31.
31.
Okay. All right. And then there's a third segment on this same video file. Is that correct? That shows someone else leaving?
Yes.
Okay. What is the next segment on the video?
The next segment would be at 12:36:40 p.m. and Miss Trinity Poague leaves off the hallway.
Okay. And I'm going to play that segment at this time, Your Honor. And that's 12:36:42, correct?
42, correct. Yes.
Okay. And then it's back to the beginning. Okay. Were there other entrances or exits by either of those two people to that dormitory on January 14th?
No, sir. It was not.
And you know that because you reviewed all the video, right?
That is correct. Yes.
I think that may be all I have at this time, Your Honor, with Chief Lewis, who could just 1 second to confer. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Chief Lewis, I'm T. Gamble. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well, doing well.
Good. I've got a couple questions for you, and I don't know, you may not know this or not. I'm not sure, but you downloaded all of these videos to assist the GBI in trying to determine some of what happened, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you turned that over to the GBI when you got through with it, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Now, at that time, did you know any of the facts or any information about what had happened other than there'd been a child taken to the hospital with some injuries?
No, sir, I did not.
When you talked to, was it Lieutenant Allen that called you first to tell you about this?
That is correct, yes.
Did he tell you anything at all about what had happened at that time?
No, sir. He just told, well, he did. He told me that the baby had been brought to the hospital unresponsive, but he didn't tell me exactly what happened to the baby. No.
Did he tell you if anyone said what had happened to the child when they first brought him to the hospital?
No, sir, he didn't. He handed the phone to Miss Trinity Poague.
Well, let me ask you this. Since you have downloaded the video, are you aware of some of the circumstances concerning this case at all, or is that where you ended, was doing the video?
That's kind of why I ended it at, is doing the video.
Were you aware of that the 12:30 video that shows Mr. Williams going back into the Oaks on January 14th? At that time, he had been called by Miss Poague and told that there was an emergency with the child. Were you aware of that?
I wasn't aware when I was downloading the footage, though, but since we've had opportunity to look at the case, then yes, I was familiar with kind of what was going on at what point.
So you know that particular set of facts, at least there's some allegations that Miss Poague had called. The way that Mr. Williams found out that the child was in distress was because Miss Poague had called him and said, you need to come back to, and see about the child, right?
Right, I did learn that later. That's
So
correct.
you know when Mr. Williams entered the dormitory hallway, he was aware that Ms. Poague thought it was serious enough to come on back and might need some medical attention, correct?
Well, one would assume. I'm not sure.
I'm going to object, Your Honor, to going any further down this line of questions in terms of, asking what somebody told him is one thing. Asking him if he knows that he would have had or she would have had this information or that information at that particular time. There's no way for him to know because he's not that individual. It's hearsay. And
I'm asking about his information, just what he now knows about it compared to at the time. I'm not going to go any further than that part.
I'll sustain the objection to the extent that you're asking for any other hearsay information.
Won't be asking hearsay, but I do have one follow-up. Did you find it to be, as you watch that video and you watch Mr. Williams enter that hallway, knowing that it's potentially an emergency, do you find it unusual to see that he is walking very slowly and doesn't seem to be in a hurry?
objection, Your Honor, is asking the witness to characterize something that would essentially be a matter that the jury can observe for themselves from the video.
Sustain that objection to him giving an opinion. Any other questions?
No, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No redirect, Judge.
All right. May this witness be excused?
You may be.
All right. You're free to stay or go, Chief.
Thank you.
Is everybody still comfortable? Do we have, you want to take one more witness before we break? Do we have a witness?
If it factors into that,
Yes, sir.
that determination, what I will tell the court is that the next witness I intend to call is Agent Gibson from the GBI.
So that'll be a more lengthy
There will
witness.
be, I'm not going to say it's going to take an hour and a half or anything, but it's going to be lengthier than anybody we've had so far because there's a lot of exhibits that will be
Okay.
displayed.
Well, it's 11:45 then. I'm going to go ahead and let you take your lunch break. I'm going to let you go to lunch until 1 o'clock. Please remember my instructions while you're at lunch. And incidentally, you're wearing badges while you're in the courtroom. I think, do they take those? I think take them with you. That way people at lunch will know that you're on a jury. But you might encounter the attorneys outside, and they're going to kind of step away from you, and people associated with the case are. Nobody's being rude. They're just following the protocols, okay? And you follow them too. Continue not to discuss the case, all the other things I've told you and cautioned you not to do. Particularly be vigilant about television or internet coverage. Just stay away from that for right now. All right? Thank you very much.